And welcome everybody for our weekly edition of our live stream, coming to you live from our theater in Hendersonville, Tennessee, right here in the Nashville area where we tape the Huckabee Show every week. And we hope you are our regular viewer of the Huckabee Show. And we'd love for you to come to be part of our studio audience. You can get free tickets by going to Huckabee.tv. It's where you can also see any segment of the show. Now, Pam Case, our senior producer, once again is not able to be with us today. She is out on some personal business, and so I'll be reading the questions. There you go. Now, I can't read them if you don't send them, so that's why we're asking you right now to be sure to send questions in the chat, or you can send a super chat. That moves your question right up to the top. There are going to be moderators watching the chat. They'll send to me the questions that you send, and I'll do my best to get to as many as I can. We always want to begin by asking you, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Leave a comment for us. Be sure to like the videos and share them with your friends. Right now would be the perfect time to share and to get word out to a whole lot of your friends and even maybe a couple of your enemies, because nothing would make them madder than to watch me answer questions from my point of view, and probably yours. So share it as well. We like to start each week with some interesting things that have happened. We call the first part of our show, at least we have for the last few weeks, the Psaki bomb. There is a reason for it, and it's coming right now. I can feel it. That's right, because Jen Psaki every day goes to the press room. She goes because Trump, rather not Trump, but Biden won't, and he does not like to answer questions, and when he does, they're all prearranged as to who gets to ask and what they're going to be, and he reads his answers, often it appears from a teleprompter. Like, gee, I didn't know this was coming. It's like Jussie Smollett had no idea that walking down the Chicago streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking for a Subway sandwich, because that's what we all do in a sub-freezing environment of Chicago with the wind blowing, all completely covered up, where even if you knew who Jussie Smollett was, and I never heard of the guy, even if you knew who he was, you wouldn't have been able probably to know him because he was bundled up for the winter. And he had just come in on a plane that was several hours late, so somehow, miraculously, these people were out looking for him at 2 in the morning near a Subway sandwich place because they knew he would just be strutting around. And they just happened to have with them a bottle of bleach and a noose, because that's what people carry around in Chicago. And in addition to that, these were Trump supporters, because you know how many of those are in Chicago downtown, especially hanging out by themselves at 2 a.m., right? Anyway, as we know, that whole thing fell apart. Speaking of falling apart, Jen Psaki's been falling apart this week. She says on November the 24th that Joe Biden, the president, would do a bevy of interviews to sell his Build Back Better plan. Watch.
You can certainly anticipate, George, that a couple weeks, months from now, we will have a whole bevy of events and photos and interviews that the team here will have done, including the president, to go out there and communicate directly with the American people.
Except he really hasn't. He might get in 1 or 2 events a week, not 4 or 5 a day, and they're very scripted, very controlled, and no, reporters are not given free access to ask questions that aren't approved in advance. So this whole idea of bevy of interviews, I don't know what a bevy means at the White House these days, but apparently not what it means to the rest of us. Our second little clip involving our Psaki bomb, this is when she will not answer a reporter who asked, will Biden be giving a major press conference by the end of the year? Let's watch this.
The president today spoke about global press freedom during the summit.
Yeah.
Just wondering if he's going to commit to holding a year-end press conference.
Well, one, I would say that global press freedom is something that he feels is important to stand up for, not just here, but when he is traveling around the world and ensuring that your colleagues around the world who are dealing with circumstances where they are put in jail.
Yeah, you know, speaking of people being put in jail, some of those people that were arrested on January the 6th, some who didn't even go into the Capitol, have been in jail since then under the most horrible conditions, and those reports are beginning to come out. And one wonders, is this still America? If they can't talk to their attorneys, they're not given due process, they're held indefinitely in squalor, they're not allowed to see physicians for medical conditions. You know, she seems to be very concerned about how reporters are treated in some other country. Hey, Jen, you might want to check out how some Americans or citizens are being treated in our country. That would be worth your time. I don't expect you to do it, but it would be nice if you did. Let me go to some questions we've got. This comes from Sue. She says, New York City Council just gave non-citizens the right to vote. Will this stand? Great question. What they're doing, of course, is allowing non-citizens to vote in city elections. They do not have the authority or the power to allow non-citizens to vote in state elections or in federal elections. But that's coming. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When a major U.S. city, one of the largest in the country, says, oh, you don't have to be a citizen to vote. Think about the implications of this. You're just here on vacation. You go to New York City and they're having an election. You decide, you know, I'm not a citizen, not New York, not New York City, but I'd like to vote. I want to vote for the mayor and the city council. And what if enough non-citizens vote that they actually elect a mayor who will just hand out free stuff and maybe turn high-rise apartments into homeless shelters? You say, well, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to let people who are not citizens vote on the issues of a local government. This is insane. Again, I sometimes scratch my head and wonder, who thinks up this stuff? Here's another great one. This is from Alesheva, I believe that's right, Jones Show. And the question is, can a Californian help move things in a positive direction? My initial answer is probably flippant, would be to say, yeah, if you're in California and you want to move things in a positive direction, load up a U-Haul and move east. That would be one way to move it. I'm stunned as to what's happening in California, and it's hard for me to understand why the people of California are not more angry. Angry that crime is rampant and nobody seems to really do anything to stop it. You have prosecutors like George Gascon in Los Angeles who thinks he's doing a great job by letting criminals out without going to jail for violent crimes, and who stands back and doesn't prosecute people for these brazen attempts going into stores in gangs and stealing everything from stuff out of a Louis Vuitton store to an Apple store. You know, this is not kids' pranks. These are highly organized efforts to steal massive amounts of expensive merchandise and then sell it on the black market. And who pays? Everybody. You know, one of the things that always just rankles me is when people are so stupid, and I say this on the left, maybe there's some on the right, but I don't know, but on the left, and they think that these are victimless crimes and it only, you know, doesn't really hurt anyone. Well, do you have insurance? Do you know your insurance costs more because of this kind of crime? Do you ever buy anything from one of these stores? Well, it costs more because they build into the cost of what you buy the cost of the things people stole. It's called shrinkage in industry terms. And the more stuff that is stolen, the higher the prices get for the stuff that didn't get stolen off the shelf, and you pay for it. So this nonsense about it's a victimless crime, no, the law-abiding citizens are the victims. We've got a clip. This is from the Los Angeles Police Department's union leader. This is amazing. He is telling people, don't come to LA. Watch.
My message to anybody considering coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't. We can't guarantee your safety. It is really, really out of control. You know, I said it to people before. It's like that movie Purge. You know, instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these bad people have 365 days to commit whatever they want.
That's one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. This is a a Los Angeles police officer, union representative, and he's basically saying to the world, don't come here. We cannot protect you. We can't guarantee your safety. You'll be better off not coming here. Now, if I were head of the Los Angeles Visitors and Tourist Bureau, I think I'd be demanding that the city do something about the crime, because there is an economic impact when tourists quit going to LA. And I don't blame people for not going there. And I don't blame this police officer being pretty honest and saying, if you come here, just know we can't protect you. You might get mugged, you might get murdered, and probably nothing will happen to the criminal who did it. It's just going to be happening to you. I mean, that's where we've come to in this country. This one, I love this. This is from Dinah Lee. She says, Mike, love your beard. Super sexy. Thank you, Dinah. I'm going to pass that on to my wife and let her know that somebody really likes the beard. I told people, look, if Biden's economy keeps going, folks, I'm going to be reduced to having to moonlight as a department store Santa. I'm just getting a head start, so I'll look better in the part. Speaking of the economy, I want to show you a little clip. This is Joe Biden saying in June that nobody is talking about inflation. It's not a big deal. And watch how he frames this up. This is June.
Talking inflation. The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great, So, again, if it turns out that what I've done so far, what we've done so far, is a mistake, it's going to show.
It sure is going to show. And guess what, Joe? It is showing. People go to the stores and they see empty shelves. They gas up their car, and it costs so much that people are putting stickers all over gas pumps. One with Joe Biden pointing at the price saying, I did that, because they know they're paying about $2, sometimes as much, more a gallon than they did a year ago. What's happened? Well, we've had a change of administration and a change of policy, and the results are disastrous. Even Joe Scarborough, who at once upon a time, back years and years ago, pretended to be a conservative. He's certainly given that up. He's on BSNBC, and he says now we have the highest inflation spike since 1982. Watch.
Breaking news and bad news, of course, for working class Americans, middle class Americans who certainly are going to feel the pinch in their pocketbook. Inflation spiked 6.8% in November, highest spike in 39 years.
Yeah, highest spike in 39 years. I just want you to understand what's happening to the economy. Liberals love the word systemic. They apply it to racism. What we're seeing is a systemic challenge to the structure of the economy, where people are paid to not work, and people who do work are basically penalized because taxes are taken out of their wages for working, but no taxes are taken out of benefits given to people who don't go to work. This is insane. It's not small, and it's only getting worse, and we're going to create a whole generation of people who have an expectation that they don't have to work, and the government, or as we call it down south, Uncle Sugar, is going to take care of them for their whole stinking lives. God help us all when we do not build an economy on the idea that each of us are personally responsible to work and provide for ourselves and our families. Just remember to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit the notification bell, leave us a comment on the way. Be sure to like the page and share it with other people. And I want to go to some more questions, so let's get back to them. We've got this one from Helplessly California. Do you think it's a good idea to encourage Californians to abandon California and maybe move to purple or red states? I'm not going to try to actually urge people to leave, but I will tell you, every night we tape our show, and we have guests, sometimes from as many as 26 states in our studio audience. I do a meet and greet after the show. I visit with people that want to come by and say hello. I always ask folks, where are you from? It's almost always that we have 10 to 20 people from California who have either just moved here or they are here looking for housing so they can move. That's just California. I was in California just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there are a lot of people who are solid, conservative, Christian people, and they're determined to stay, and they believe things can and hopefully will turn around, and I hope they are right. But I just know that many people, for economic reasons, some for security reasons, and some they're just tired of fighting the fight. They are on their way out. So if you're there, be a missionary, work hard, but stand strong and don't let folks run over you. Let's go to this. This is a question that's being asked by several people. One, David White, he says he's a frequent flyer on the channel. I love that expression. And also Jay Luther. They're both asking about January 6th. Why is January 6th a big deal when there are nearly 1,000 things going on the past year, way worse than January 6th? And this question, anyone who asks why January 6th was a big deal missed 8th grade civics. So let's combine those. January 6th was a group of people who essentially did riot, and they overwhelmed the security of the U.S. Capitol, which, by the way, had been warned to put extra security. President Trump had asked to put 200 National Guard troops, and that was denied. So they were unprepared, and a whole bunch of people went there. Some say, and some video reveals, that there were a lot of people who were actually waved into the Capitol. Now, once in there, some of them got a little overwhelmed and emotional, and they went into private offices, put their feet up on the desk of people like Nancy Pelosi. That's criminal. That's criminal trespass. There is no excuse for that. I've said since last year, when this all happened, it was not an insurrection. It was a bunch of chuckleheads that got a little overheated. The only person who died that day, I've heard people say, you know, several police officers were killed by the rioters. That is a lie. That didn't happen. There was only one person who died that day, and it was Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran and a Trump supporter, who was shot by a Capitol police officer, and she was unarmed. Not one, write this down, not one of the rioters had a firearm that was confiscated from them. None of them. So this idea that they were heavily armed and they were rushing into the Capitol, they were going to kill members of Congress, maybe with their bare hands, but I'm telling you, it was certainly a situation out of control. I'm not trying to diminish that. But using the word insurrection is nonsense. An insurrection means somebody's trying to take over the government. Are you going to take over a government that has tanks and an Air Force and an Army and a Marine Corps, heavily armed, even to the point of nuclear weapons, and you're going to do it with your fist? It's got to be the dumbest excuse for an insurrection that ever was. It's a term that the left uses to try to make this as if it's the most horrible thing that ever happened. Well, it isn't. Last summer in 2020, when cities were being burned to the ground, stores and local businesses and courthouses and police stations were being torched. And I don't ever remember people on the left getting all that exercised about it and demanding that the people who did it go to prison for the rest of their lives. So what I want to do is put this in perspective. This is not because people are really concerned that the country was about to be overrun. This is a political weapon, and people on the left will excuse the behavior of the people on their side. And people who were out, again, doing some things they shouldn't have done, but they didn't burn anything, and they didn't try to hurt or kill anybody. Maybe there were a few that got out of hand. But I just want to say to you, you've got to keep this in perspective and realize the media will never give you the right story. They just won't. And one of the reasons we try to be honest and faithful on this channel, may not always agree with what I say, but I'm going to tell you what I truly believe, and I'll do it within the context of all the facts that I can gather and not just what I think. Okay, I want to take you to another clip. This is a little indication of some of the polling data that we're seeing. Joe Biden is essentially, in polling language, he's in a free fall. He came in with extraordinarily high ratings. I'm not sure why, but he did. And this is true for a lot of presidents when they first show up. But they have plummeted. Look at this from CNBC.
His approval rating on handling the coronavirus dropped to 46% to 48% disapproving. That measure is now underwater for the first time for the president. His economic approval rating sinking more deeply underwater, with 37% approving compared to 56% who disapprove. That is also worse than the last survey. The polling data for Democrats in Congress, even worse. Republicans now sport an historic 10-point advantage on congressional preference.
That is a big one right there. In fact, it's one of the reasons that you're seeing so many of the Democrats announce that they are retiring. Very few are as honest as Congresswoman Jackie Spear of California. She's one of those who is calling it quits. She makes real clear part of the reason.
Next year, not expected to be a good one for Democrats, at least as things stand now. Were you at all concerned, about running again in that kind of environment?
So I've spent the majority of my years in Congress in the minority party. So that really did not have any impact on my decision.
I bet it did. But even she doesn't think her party will keep the House. That's a moment of candor that we don't see all that often. I'm getting quite a few questions, and I'm truly grateful. Please enter the chat. Throw any question you'd like. We'll get to as many as we can. This comes from Mary D'Agostino, and she says she loves the verse of the day that I have on my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. She said she sends the verse of the day to a man who is incarcerated, and he loves them. He has totally turned his life over to God. What a wonderful thing to hear. If you're not a subscriber to my daily newsletter, good opportunity for you to do it. Go to MikeHuckabee.com, subscribe. No cost to you. It comes to your email inbox twice a day, and it is 100% free. Speaking of free, it's also free to subscribe to this channel, which you should have already done, but if not, you can make up for that by doing it right now. When you subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to leave us a comment. Tell us what you think, and let us know if you like it, and share it with other people. All of those are ways in which you can be a participant. This question comes from King Kong. I didn't know he was still around. I thought he ended at the end of the movie, but he's still here. And King Kong has this to say: how long do you think Biden can last at the rate he is declining? Hard to say, but it's somewhat troubling to see a man who is having real problems getting through a speech that is on a screen for him. And it's sometimes a little bit frightening. And he'll muffle words and muddle words and mispronounce. But the biggest issue is that he does not appear to really be cognizant of what he is saying. And that's the most troubling. If he could read the script, fine, but as he squints into the camera, it's like he's really trying hard to see what's there, what's written for him, because he's not familiar with it. And then sometimes you can tell he's just getting completely lost. Now, this is great. This is from a super chat from David White. And he wants to ask me, he says, imagine if Joe answered questions like me. Well, let me tell you, wouldn't it be neat if Joe Biden would just do a live stream once a week, heck, once a month, maybe once ever, where he had no idea what the questions were. I don't know what you're going to ask. I don't select them. They're sent to me. I'm looking at them on a screen, and sometimes when Pam is here, she knows what they are. I don't know what they are. I take the questions that come, and I think every politician ought to do that. I did it as governor and as lieutenant governor and as a candidate for every office I ever ran for, freely taking questions and having no idea where they were coming from. Why we do this chat that we do every week, and I hope that you are enjoying it and that you will keep subscribing and being a part of it. Okay. This from Joy Simmons. She says, do you think that the Democrat plans are, 1, Biden out, 2, Harris in and chooses Hillary as VP, then Harris out, Hillary is finally president? She says, God in heaven, I pray not. Interesting, this is a great time to show you a little clip. This week, Hillary did what's called a master class, and that's the thing you pay for. Trust me, I did not pay to be in Hillary's master class. But a clip of it has surfaced. It's out, and we've been able to assess it. And in this, Hillary reads the speech that she had written and prepared to accept the presidency in November of 2016. Now, the reason this is significant is that She's reading this speech. This is, as she says, for the first time, she has shared it publicly. And this week, she decided to let everyone in America know what she would have said, what she wanted to say, what she thought she was going to say after being elected president. And interestingly, she did not have a concession speech. She was so sure, so cocky about her election, she had only one speech, the speech of victory. In it, she gets really, really emotional and breaks up a little bit. Watch this.
You will survive. You will have a good family of your own and 3 children. And as hard as it might be to imagine, your daughter will grow up and become the President of the United States.
Well, that didn't happen. This was part of her speech in which she was reading, as it were, a letter to her mother, who is deceased. And she was telling her all about that her daughter had been elected president. I can understand why she would get emotional about that. And I'm not making fun of her, but I just want to point out that there was such a confidence on the part of the people on the left in Hillary's camp that she was going to be elected. And you know part of the reason for that? Because they had it all set up. All this Russia hoax stuff that was fueled by our own Justice Department and the FBI and the CIA. And the more we know, the more shocking it gets that at the highest levels of government there was collusion. But it wasn't Donald Trump and the Russians. It was the Hillary Clinton campaign and the law firm that Hillary had hired that created a phony dossier that took it to the FBI, who knew it was phony, but went ahead and got a FISA warrant so that they could spy on the Trump campaign and Trump operatives. And even though they couldn't find anything, they pretended that they did. And you had people like Adam Schiff in Congress holding up an empty page saying, we've got the stuff right here. He didn't have anything, because if he had it, he'd have shown it. He showed us nothing because he had nothing. We spent $33 million so that Bob Mueller could go out and get the most partisan hacks in the government to investigate Donald Trump, and they couldn't find anything, but they impeached him anyway. So you put all that together, and I can understand why Hillary was crying. They spent a bunch of dough on a campaign that still failed. And the worst of it was she was defeated by somebody she couldn't stand, Donald Trump. So for the next 4 years, these same leftists decided they would do everything they can, and they would create, if necessary, a whole new way for people to vote, quote, mail-in ballots. And they used the cover of the pandemic as a means to get people to vote without any accountability, without any knowledge of were these real people, were the people whose ballots were being counted, were they the people who actually marked those ballots? We have no idea. Am I saying the election was stolen? I don't know. I'm not saying it was, because I don't know. But here's what I am saying. Nobody is willing to do the kind of investigation to find out just how legitimate it was. And that, to me, is very troubling. Let's go back to some questions. I want to get to some more of those from you that you're sending them. Here's one. Joe Woodrum says, can't wait for Joe's State of the Union address. Do you think he will make one? He probably will. I guess he's almost obligated to do that. But I don't think he will do much more than read the script that's put in front of him, and he will have a hard time getting through it. This one from R. Ramos. He said he expects to be liked, talking about Joe Biden, to be liked after the vaccine mandates and acting like a dictator-in-chief. Well, that is indeed troubling. And I want to remind you that 1 year ago, almost exactly a year ago, December of last year, Joe Biden was asked would he be in favor of mandating the vaccination. And he said, absolutely not. He said, that's not something that I can do and I would do. I would never do that. I would be against that. It wasn't like, well, I don't think so, but we'll leave all options on the table. By the way, when a politician says he'll leave something on the table, that's the first thing he's going to get off the table. So just remember that. Well, Joe Biden was adamant, no mandates on the vaccine. And a year later, he's having to be shut down by court after court, which, by the way, he's batting 1,000, losing in court, as federal judge after federal judge are striking down his vaccine mandates, whether it's on government employees or whether it's on private sector employees. They're just saying you just can't do that and fire people because they refuse to get a particular vaccine. So right now, I just say our country is in a world of hurt. That's a fair way to say it. Let me remind you again to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment there, and be sure and like and to share with other people about watching this particular live stream. Coming to you from our theater in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, where we tape the Huckabee Show every week. Here's a question: what's being done to ensure voter machine and ballot integrity for 2022 and 2024 elections? My answer is not enough. I'm very concerned. I do think that many of the local Republican parties are being much more vigilant, and they're making plans to have election judges. A lot of state legislators are trying to ensure that there are greater levels of watchfulness and accountability for how the ballots are tabulated. By the way, the left calls this trying to suppress voters. Nobody's trying to suppress a legitimate voter. Nobody. I know of no person, I mean literally, not even the crazy people. I don't know of any person who is trying to keep people from voting unless they shouldn't be voting. Like if they're convicted felons, or if they're illegal and they don't have citizenship in this country, or if they don't live where they're trying to vote, they shouldn't be voting. And if you're taking a dirt nap down at the cemetery, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be voting. You're dead. And when dead people vote, and people vote illegally because they're not citizens, we all ought to be concerned about it. Doesn't matter whether they would vote the way we wanted them to vote. It's just wrong, and it is a complete destruction of the way we do business as a government. Hey, let me throw this in. We have launched our very own Huckabee Show merchandise store. How about that? You can finally get some awesome Huckabee Show hats, shirts, mugs, and more. We've got people designing some brand new items that'll come out in the future. And get this, after hunting high and low to make this happen, it wasn't easy. I'm very proud to say that every single item in our merchandise store are 100% made in America. Nothing we have is sitting out on a ship in the middle of the Pacific in the supply chain breakdown, because none of this stuff is coming from China. It's made right here in America. America, that's where it's made. The store is up now. You can go do some shopping. Christmas shopping would be great at Huckabee.tv. By the way, I want to make you sure you know, I don't get a thing out of this. I get no royalties. I get no profit from it. It goes back into the Huckabee Show, and we just try to bring you the very best television that we can. That's where it goes. I get none of it. You'll get some great merchandise, all American made. Be sure to leave your questions in the comments. We may get to some of those next week. Once again, we tell you to subscribe, hit the notification bell so we'll always let you know when we're going to be doing a live stream or have a new video up. And we want to say thank you so much for joining us on today's live stream. But don't forget, the show tomorrow night, it'll definitely be worth watching. I guarantee you. And in fact, if you just want to know how good the show is going to be, well, let me give you just a little bit of a preview right now.
This week on Huckabee, Franklin Graham's Operation Christmas Child. News with a twist on In Case You Missed It. Kathy Lee Gifford's The Jesus I Know. Comedian Reno Collier. And singer Colton Dixon perform. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central right here on TBN.